Hi, Nathan here again with another True Tech troubleshooting tutorial. Today in Adobe LiveCycle we're going to tackle the problem we faced at the end of our last tutorial where we have an expanding table in a LiveCycle form, but the table expands too much and runs into other objects below it. And so today we want to show how to incorporate form flow into our form to get around this problem. I also have a video tutorial up on YouTube about form flow in particular that deals with this, but I want to meld these two together to show a real-life situation of how this can really, understanding form flow can really make your forms dynamic and useful. Okay, so we have a form here that we built last time, and when we preview this form, we can use the buttons on the left to grow or shrink our table depending on what we need. And the problem we faced last time is if we don't put a maximum limit on our table of 5 and it goes past 5, it starts to run into our object down here that shows the website address. And of course, if your end user is using a form and this happens, that could create a lot of problems. They wouldn't be able to complete the form because they can't read it very well. And if you notice, when we actually add some text into here, it starts to run together and create all kinds of problems for us. So we want to avoid this. So the solution we want is to allow the table to grow indefinitely, but also to push any objects below it down so that it can be a true flowing form. So how do we do that? Well, first we need to understand subforms and their power in Adobe LiveCycle. In your hierarchy, you have, of course, the topmost subform, which is the form, and then you have master pages, and then you have individual pages inside that. And normally, individual pages are their own subform, but we can create nested subforms inside of that to accomplish tasks that normally one couldn't accomplish by itself. So if you look on our subform here, we have our main page is a position subform, and we have not checked allow page breaks within content. And so what we want to do here is we want to change that by saying allow page breaks, and then we want to nest inside of this 3 subforms: a header, a footer, and then a middle for our expanding table. So let's do that. We're going to come over here to our form. So we're going to go to our object library and draw a subform around our header field, and then make sure in our hierarchy that subform is named and positioned right in our hierarchy so we can understand what it's doing. I'm going to name it subform header, and then I'm going to put the title, txt title, inside of that header. So now you see it can expand and show you that True Tech Troubleshooting Tutorials title is inside of the header subform. I'm going to add another subform to the bottom of the form, and we're going to call that SF footer, and we're going to drag the txt website objects inside of that so that now it's there. And you see the position of on the form doesn't change at all. It's just the position of the hierarchy right now, but this is important later when we turn on the flowed part of the subform. So we have 2 subforms, and now in the middle we have an option. We can make a subform surround the table, or we can leave it like it is, as long as we turn on flowed content in our main form. So watch what happens when we do this. Everything jumps to the top of the form and scrunches together, we could say. And in order to return it to where we wanted it, we can expand the footer subform and move things around if we'd like. So what we have is a nested subform, 1 header, 1 footer, and in the middle we have the sample table that's in the main, still in this main subform that's now been set to flowed. Of course, we're allowing page breaks in our middle content, but we don't want to allow page breaks inside our header and our footer. We want those things to stay together so they're not, if there was more than one object, we wouldn't want one object orphaned and the other not orphaned. So I'm going to move that object up, shrink this down a little bit. So now that when we preview the form and we expand the rows, the table expands while pushing down any content that's below it. And let's say we get to the point where we're going to page break. We keep expanding the rows, and all of a sudden the page is broken now, and the footer goes to the top of the next page. And we can, of course, keep adding rows to the next page. Take this view down a little bit. But the table doesn't expand past the bottom of the page, no matter how many times we click plus. It keeps adding rows, but not to the next page. So we also have to make sure we have one on this particular object, the table sample. We also have to check allow page breaks within content so that it will move to the next page if it needs to. So now when we preview and we expand the rows to another page, we see on the next page another set of rows expanding out. So we've solved the problem of objects in our table running together and creating ugly overlapping text that would allow the end user not to see very well what they're doing. So it creates a clean, flowing form that can expand to as many pages as we need it to. So hopefully this will help you in your pursuit of making great forms. Like I always say, be sure to check out the TrueTech Troubleshooting website, which can be found at truetechtroubleshooting.blogspot.com. Also, you can check out our channel on YouTube to find more LiveCycle tutorials. And like always, please remember that IT problems are usually simple, but they're never easy. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.